There's a moment in every person's life when they realize the truth. Nothing changes until they change. Not their family, not the world, not luck. Them. And in that moment, something awakens. A spark, a fire, a voice that says, if I created this life, I can recreate it. Most people wait for permission, for perfect timing, for someone to save them. But the ones who rise, who transform their lives, discover one powerful secret. Taking full responsibility is the gateway to real freedom. Today, you're not here by accident. You're here because some part of you is ready. Ready to stop repeating the old story. Ready to step into your power. Ready to own every decision, every action, and every outcome from this moment forward. So, let's talk about the 41 secret that separates people who succeed from people who stay stuck. The secret that puts your life back in your hands. The moment you accept that your thoughts shape your destiny is the moment your entire life begins to shift. Most people go through their days believing life happens to them. They think their circumstances are fixed, their opportunities are limited, and their future is controlled by forces outside their hands. But the truth is far more empowering. Your life reflects the patterns of your thoughts, the beliefs you hold, and the decisions you make based on those beliefs. When you finally take responsibility for what you allow into your mind, you take responsibility for everything that follows. Think about it. Every action you take begins with a thought. Every belief you have was once a thought you chose to accept. Every emotion you feel is shaped by what you focus on. And your focus, whether you realize it or not, is a choice. When you focus on what's missing, life feels heavy. When you focus on what's possible, your energy rises. When you focus on problems, you get more problems. When you focus on solutions, your world starts to open up. This is not magic. This is the psychology of responsibility. You've met people who blame everything around them, their past, their parents, the economy, their friends, even the weather. They live in a mental prison built by their own thoughts. And because they refuse to take responsibility for what goes on inside their minds, they lose control of what happens outside. But the moment you shift that internal dialogue, the moment you say, my thoughts are mine, and I choose what they mean, you unlock a level of personal power that most people never discover. Taking responsibility for your thoughts doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means interpreting reality in a way that empowers you instead of limiting you. It means seeing obstacles as signals, not stop signs. It means understanding that you may not control everything that happens, but you always control the meaning you give to it. And the meaning you choose determines the action you take next. If you constantly think, I can't, your brain shuts down. If you think, I will find a way, your brain begins searching for solutions. Your thoughts guide your physiology, your emotions, and your behavior. Responsibility begins with mastering that inner environment. You cannot expect to create a powerful life with disempowering thoughts. You cannot build confidence on a foundation of doubt. And you cannot achieve great things while allowing fear, negativity, or limiting beliefs to dominate your mind. When you finally own your thoughts, you own your life. You realize you are not defined by past failures. You are not tied to old stories. You are not trapped by yesterday's mindset. You are free to rewrite your mental blueprint anytime you choose. And that choice, that decision to take full responsibility for the world inside your mind, is the beginning of every transformation. Because once you control your thoughts stop controlling you. And that's the moment your destiny becomes yours again. Most people wake up every day believing their life is shaped by circumstances, the family they came from, the opportunities they were given, the obstacles they faced, or the luck they did or didn't have. But the truth is far more powerful. The quality of your life is shaped by the standards you set for yourself, not the circumstances you face. Two people can experience the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes. The difference isn't what happened, it's the standards they hold themselves to. When you raise your standards, you raise the level at which you operate. You stop accepting excuses, stop settling for good enough, and start demanding more from yourself. Your standards become your internal contract. The rules that define what you will and won't tolerate in your life. If you tolerate stress, chaos, and procrastination, your life reflects that. If you demand discipline, growth, and intentional action, your life reflects that too. Everything changes the moment you decide what you truly expect of yourself. People who achieve great things don't always have easier lives. They don't always have more talent, more resources, or more time. What they have are higher standards for how they show up, how they think, how they respond, and how they work. They decide that average is not acceptable. They decide that excuses have no place in their world. They decide that discomfort is a part of growth, and growth is a non-negotiable. This level of self-expectation becomes their fuel. Circumstances will always shift. Life doesn't promise stability, fairness, or predictability. But standards are something you control every single day. You decide whether you wake up early or hit snooze. You decide whether you stay committed or give in to pressure. You decide whether you keep going or stop because it's hard. These decisions, repeated over time, form your destiny. They shape your results far more than any external event ever could. The moment you say, "This is the new minimum I accept from myself," everything changes. Your behavior starts aligning with your expectations. You begin to make decisions that match your identity. If you set a high standard for your health, you naturally take better care of yourself. If you set a high standard for your work, you push yourself to deliver excellence. If you set a high standard for your mindset, you refuse to let negativity take control. Responsibility begins with standards, because standards define your personal boundaries. They tell the world who you are and what you stand for. But more importantly, they tell you what you are committed to becoming. And when your standards rise, your entire life rises with them. Your relationships improve, your work improves, your mindset strengthens, and your confidence grows. You can't always control where you start, but you can always control the level you choose to rise to. Circumstances may try to push you down, but standards pull you back up. They remind you that capable of more than you're living right now. And once you decide to raise your standards, truly raise them, you unlock a level of responsibility, power, and growth that circumstances can never take away. Every emotion you feel, every action you take, and every habit you repeat is ultimately a choice, even if it doesn't feel like one in the moment. Most people move through life on autopilot, reacting instead of deciding, repeating old patterns instead of creating new possibilities. They say things like, "That's just who I am," or "I can't help it," or "This is how life is." But the truth is, your life is not shaped by fate or personality. It's shaped by the decisions you make every day, consciously or unconsciously. When you realize that every pattern can be broken and every response can be redesigned, you take responsibility for your life at the deepest level. Your emotional world is a perfect example. Many people believe emotions control them, but emotions are simply signals. Reactions created by what you choose to focus on and the meaning you give to it. Two people can experience the same setback. One collapses mentally while the other gets stronger. Why? Because one person chooses to see the event as destruction, while the other sees it as direction. Once you understand that emotion is a choice shaped by focus, you gain the power to shift your emotional state at will. And when you control your state, you control your life. Your actions follow the same rule. Even when something feels automatic, it's really just a practiced choice, repeated so many times that it became a default reaction. But defaults can be rewritten. You can choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, persistence over giving up. You can choose to show up even when you don't feel like it. Success is often the result of choosing action over hesitation again and again until it becomes your new normal. When you take responsibility for your actions, you stop waiting for motivation and start relying on commitment. Your habits are simply actions repeated until they become identity. If you have strong habits, you built them. If you have weak habits, you built those too, maybe not consciously, but through repeated choices. The moment you acknowledge that you created them is the moment you gain the power to replace them. You can design habits that match the future you want instead of repeating the ones tied to the past you're trying to escape. Habits are the silent architects of your destiny, and they are fully under your control. Taking responsibility for your choices means stepping out of the role of a victim and stepping into the role of a creator. You stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? You stop saying, this always happens to me, and start saying, what can I do differently next time? You stop believing life as something you react to and start seeing it as something you build. This shift in perspective doesn't just change your behavior, it changes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who is capable, someone who is in control, someone who is responsible for every part of their journey. When you understand that choices, not chances, shape your life, you wake up to a new level of power. You become aware of how much influence you actually have over your future. And once you take responsibility for your emotions, actions, and habits, you become unstoppable because you stop waiting for life to change and start creating the life you want. Most people go through life asking the same question. Whenever something goes wrong, why is this happening to me? It feels natural, it feels automatic, and it even feels justified. But that question keeps you trapped. It focuses your mind on blame, on problems, on circumstances you can't control. It pulls your power away from you and hands it to the situation. The real shift begins when you replace that question with a far more empowering one. What can I do right now? That single change transforms you from a victim of life into an active creator of your future. The moment you ask, what can I do? Your brain shifts into problem-solving mode. You stop dwelling on the past and start focusing on action. Instead of replaying the story of what went wrong, you begin exploring what can go right. This shift may seem small, but it's the foundation of responsibility. It teaches your mind to look for movement instead of excuses, for solutions instead of self-pity, for progress instead of paralysis. Life becomes less about what happened and more about what you choose to do next. When a challenge hits you, your old patterns might push you toward frustration, anger, or confusion. That's normal. But staying there is a choice. Responsibility interrupt that emotional cycle and redirect your focus. Every time you choose action over complaining, your confidence strengthens. Every time you choose curiosity over blame, your awareness expands. Every time you choose movement over stagnation, your results improve. You start to prove to yourself that you can handle what life throws at you. As you practice asking, "What can I do right now?" you begin to notice that even in the most difficult situations, there's always something you control. Maybe you can't control the event, but you can control your response. You can take one step forward. You can make one call. You can learn one skill. You can shift one thought. Responsibility doesn't demand that you change everything instantly. It asks that you take ownership of the next move. And the next move is always within your reach. This mindset transforms setbacks into signals. When something goes wrong, instead of shutting down, you start paying attention. What is this teaching me? What's the next best action? What opportunity is hidden here? You stop seeing obstacles as dead ends and start seeing them as invitations to grow. Responsibility becomes less about pressure and more about power. The power to choose your direction even when the path isn't clear. Eventually, this way of thinking becomes automatic. You stop dwelling in stories of "why me?" and start living in the reality of "I've got this." People notice the change. You become more decisive, more resilient, more capable. Challenges don't shake you like before because you no longer wait for the situation to fix itself. You step forward and influence it. Real responsibility isn't about having control over everything. It's about recognizing you always have control over something. And once you master that mindset, once you consistently shift from "why is this happening?" to "what can I do?" you gain access to a level of inner strength that makes you unstoppable no matter what life brings. The moment you realize that no excuse is stronger than your desire, your life takes on a completely new direction. Most people say they want success, they want change, they want growth. But the second discomfort shows up, they retreat. The dream stays the same, but their desire weakens the moment resistance appears. Responsibility begins when your desire becomes non-negotiable, when your why becomes stronger than every excuse your mind tries to offer. Excuses feel real, they feel convincing, they feel justified, but they are nothing more than thoughts designed to keep you comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. When you take full responsibility, you stop letting excuses dictate the quality of your life. You stop telling yourself stories like, "I'm tired, I don't have time. It's not the right moment." You start recognizing these stories for what they are, mental escape routes. And the truth is, the more you follow those escape routes, the further you move from the life you want. But when your desire becomes stronger than the need for comfort, everything changes. You begin to push through friction instead of avoiding it. You begin to act even when you don't feel like it. You begin to do what's necessary instead of what's easy. Taking responsibility for your desire means owning it fully. It means admitting that if something truly matters to you, you'll find a way. And if you don't, you'll find an excuse. This level of honesty can feel uncomfortable, but it's the kind of discomfort that liberates you. It strips away the illusion that life is holding you back and reveals the truth. The only thing holding you back is the limit you've placed on your desire and the excuses you've used to protect it. Desire without action is just fantasy. Desire backed by responsibility becomes fuel. When you choose to strengthen your desire, you naturally weaken your excuses. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop relying on perfect conditions. Instead, you develop the ability to act despite fear, despite doubt, despite uncertainty. This is what separates people who break through from those who stay stuck. It's not talent, not luck, not timing. It's desire that refuses to be defeated by excuses. There will always be moments when you don't feel like doing the work. Moments when your mind tries to convince you to slow down, rest, or take it easy. But responsibility means recognizing that your emotions are temporary while your vision is permanent. It means choosing the long-term reward over the short-term relief. It means doing the work not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. That level of integrity builds power. It builds discipline. It builds identity. And once your desire becomes stronger than your excuses, you transform. You become the kind of person who follows through, the kind of person who doesn't break promises to themselves, the kind of person who acts, commits, and rises even when it's hard. That's when you become unstoppable. Because excuses lose their power the moment your desire becomes bigger than your fears, louder than your doubts, and stronger than your limitations. And from that point forward, responsibility isn't something you carry, it's something you embody.
Your life will never change until you fully take responsibility for it. Every thought you think, every action you take, every habit you form, and every standard you set begins and ends with you. No one else controls your emotions, your choices, or your results. Only you do. Excuses will always appear. Obstacles will always arise, and fear will always try to hold you back. But the moment your desire becomes stronger than your excuses, the moment you choose action over comfort, and the moment you own every part of your life, you step into true freedom. Remember, responsibility is not a burden, it's your greatest power. It's the key that unlocks your potential, the spark that ignites your destiny, and the force that transforms dreams into reality. From this moment forward, decide that your life is yours to create, and watch how unstoppable you truly are.